Have you ever imagined being transported to heaven in a chariot of fire? This is not fiction, but a biblical account of one of the greatest prophets ever known. Elijah, the Tishbite, had a life full of miracles and obstacles, culminating in a heavenly ascension that left his successor, Elisha, amazed and inspired successive generations of believers over the centuries. But what lessons can we learn from the lives of these two men of God? How can their lives motivate us to have faith today in a world so different from the one they knew? These questions lead us to a captivating story that has lasted for centuries and still echoes in our hearts, providing perennial lessons in bravery, belief, and submission. In the 9th century BC, in the dry and arid land of Gilead, Elijah appeared, a prophet whose fame spread without the need for written records. His trajectory was self-explanatory, challenging monarchs and renewing faith in a kingdom shrouded in the darkness of idolatry and injustice. Elijah's importance in the divine plan was indisputable, as announced in Malachi 4:5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. This prophecy reverberated in everyone's heart, generating a longing for the return of this divine emissary. Elijah's appearance was shrouded in enigma, intensifying his mysterious nature. Although the Bible states that he was born in Gilead, there is little information about his family or his origins, which only increases curiosity about this prophet. The divine call he received made him stand out as a strong voice in a period of spiritual decadence. Elijah was not only a man of words, but also of deeds. His physical strength was impressive, as we can see in 1 Kings 17:1, where he defies King Ahab, announcing a severe drought on the basis of his promise. This act of bravery highlighted the divine authority granted to Elijah, positioning him as a prophet whose words had the ability to change even the weather. His career was characterized by impactful actions and heavenly interventions. After challenging Ahab, God led him to the brook Chariot, where he was miraculously supported by ravens. This period of solitude and total dependence on God prepared Elijah for the challenges to come. Divine command led him to Zarephath in Sidon, where he was taken in by a widow, as predicted in the prophecy. In the desert of Zarephath, Elijah showed the power of God by supernaturally providing constant food for the widow and her son. This miracle not only helped Elijah, but also strengthened the widow's faith, demonstrating how God employs his servants to bless others in times of need. Another significant event was Elijah's resurrection of the widow's son, demonstrating God's influence over life and death. The culmination of Elijah's mission took place on Mount Carmel, where he dealt with a challenge of great importance. Elijah faced 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of Asherah, in front of a crowd divided in its belief. The challenge seemed simple but powerful. The authentic God would respond with fire from heaven. This clash was not merely a display of strength, but also an appeal to the people of Israel to return to the authentic God. The prophets of Baal had spent hours crying out, even self-flagellating in despair, but they had received no response. On the other hand, Elijah calmly prepared the altar, even flooding it with water to intensify the miracle. His prayer was succinct but full of faith. Answer me, Lord, answer me, that this people may understand that you, Lord, are God and that you are changing their hearts. The Lord came down with his fire, devouring the burnt offering, the wood, the stones, and even the water in the pit. This impressive event raised no doubts about who the true God was. In reverence, the people declared, "The Lord is God, God is Lord." This victory represented a milestone in Israel's spiritual trajectory, rekindling belief in the authentic God. However, Elijah's triumph at Carmel resulted in unforeseen consequences. Jezebel, the pagan consort of the monarch Ahab and a fervent supporter of Baal worship, was enraged by the defeat of her prophets and threatened Elijah's life. This threat exposed a surprisingly human aspect of the remarkable prophet. Discouraged and in fear of his own life, Elijah fled into the desert. This episode demonstrates that even God's most resilient servants can experience moments of weakness and uncertainty. Elijah in the desert, exhausted and desperate, expressed his desire to die, saying, "Enough, Lord, eradicate my existence, for I am not superior to my ancestors." In this moment of fragility, God did not leave his servant without divine assistance. A messenger of the Lord was with Elijah, providing sustenance and comfort. This act of divine mercy reminds us that God remains with us even in the most difficult times, providing strength and renewal when we need it most. Elijah, strengthened by the food provided by the angel, traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Mount Horeb, also called Mount Sinai. There, God manifested himself to Elijah, not through great events such as an intense wind, an earthquake, or a fire, but through a soft and delicate voice. This delicate yet powerful expression reminded Elijah that God is not only in great events, but also in serene and intimate moments of communion. In the region of Horeb, God renewed Elijah's task by giving him new guidelines. These involved crowning Hazael as monarch of Syria, Jehu as monarch of Israel, and Elisha as his prophetic successor. This moment signaled the beginning of a new chapter in Elijah's career, aimed at training the next generation of spiritual leaders. Elijah's move to Elisha represented more than a chance encounter. It was an instant of great spiritual significance. When Elijah saw Elisha working in the field, he spread his cloak over him, a symbolic act that indicated the transfer of the prophetic call. Elisha, aware of the significance of this moment, asked permission to say goodbye to his family before joining Elijah. Elisha's behavior reflects both his respect for his origins and his willingness to accept a new divine call. Although Elisha's performance was not as impactful as Elijah's in certain respects, it was equally impactful and relevant. Elisha's ministry, marked by miracles that mirrored those of his mentor, also stood out for its compassionate approach to the needs of the common people. From purifying the waters of Jericho to multiplying the widow's oil, Elisha demonstrated that divine power was revealed in actions of judgment as well as mercy. One of the most striking events in Elisha's ministry was the recovery of Naaman, the leader of the Syrian army, from his leprosy. This miracle not only demonstrated God's power, but also his mercy beyond the borders of Israel, foreshadowing the proclamation of the gospel that would reach all peoples. Elijah's earthly journey ended in a stunning way, an event that stands out as one of the most impactful and symbolic moments in the ancient Bible. As he was walking alongside Elisha, discussing spiritual matters and preparing his successor for the responsibility that lay ahead, something remarkable happened. Suddenly, a chariot of fire appeared, pulled by horses of fire, separating the two apostles. Elijah was then taken to heaven in a whirlwind, a movement that represented his closeness to God and the fulfillment of his mission on earth. Elisha, witness to this incredible event, exclaimed, "My father, my mother, the chariots and horsemen of Israel." This expression was not merely one of surprise, but of recognition of the crucial role Elijah played as Israel's spiritual protector. On witnessing his mentor's departure, Elisha tore his clothes as a gesture of mourning, but also as a symbolic gesture that he was ready to put on the mantle of prophecy. Elisha picked up Elijah's mantle, which fell as he ascended. This gesture represented the passing on of prophetic authority and the official beginning of Elisha's ministry as Israel's chief prophet. By using the cloak to divide the waters of the river Jordan, as Elijah had already done, Elisha showed that the spirit and strength that Elijah had previously worked with were now upon him. The journeys of Elijah and Elisha provide us with impactful lessons on faith, obedience, and divine sovereignty. They overcame obstacles that seemed impossible, experienced incredible miracles, and remained loyal to their mission, even in the midst of adversity and persecution. Their bravery in facing injustice and idolatry, even in the face of powerful kings, motivates us to maintain our unshakable convictions, regardless of the scenario. The links that Elijah and Elisha had with prayer and their unwavering faith in God are examples that transcend time. Elijah cried out for rain after the drought, displaying resilience and confidence. Elisha incessantly sought divine guidance during his ministry. These examples remind us of the relevance of continuous communication with God in our own spiritual journey. These narratives also remind us that God is in charge, directing all things for the benefit of those who love him, as stated in Romans 8:28. In times of discouragement, like Elijah in the desert, we can have faith that God will support us and renew our energy. In struggles against injustice and unbelief, like the battle on Mount Carmel, we can trust that God will reveal himself in his time and in his way. The legacy of Elijah and Elisha invites us to live with audacious faith, constant prayer, and authentic humility. They invite us to transcend our present conditions, however difficult they may be, and look to God for our hope, strength, and greatest goal. Their readiness to follow God, even when his guidance seemed incoherent or risky, motivates us to believe in God's wisdom beyond our limited understanding. When we ponder these stories, we are urged to analyze our own spiritual journey. How can we act like Elijah and Elisha, acting as agents of transformation in our world? How can we preserve our integrity and belief in the face of the obstacles and temptations of our current culture? How can we establish an intimate bond with God that allows us to hear his soft and gentle voice amidst the noise of our hectic lives? The narrative of these prophets is not merely a record of the past, but a call to live a vibrant and striking life of faith in the present. They remind us that God often uses ordinary individuals to achieve his extraordinary goals. Just as Elijah and Elisha were God's instruments in their day, we are equally called to be his instruments in our world, spreading hope, healing, and truth to those around us. I hope that, like Elijah and Elisha, we can leave a legacy of obedience and faith in God that inspires not only our generation, but also those to come. May our lives, like theirs, reflect the magnitude and loyalty of God, acting as a beacon of light in a world that often seems to be plunged into darkness. At the end of this reflection on the extraordinary lives of Elijah and Elisha, we are reminded that the God who acted powerfully through them is the same God who longs to work in and through us today. May we, like these remarkable prophets, be ready to listen to his voice, fulfill his commands, and believe in his ability to change our lives and the world around us. If this material was relevant to you, I ask you to contribute by subscribing so that you don't miss any of our future videos. Working together, we have the ability to enlighten more minds and broaden our understanding of the eternal truths present in Scripture. Thank you for being here, taking the time to discover these motivational stories. May God cover you with abundant blessings, and may the lessons received from Elijah and Elisha remain alive in your heart, encouraging a life of unwavering faith and a constant commitment to the divine.